I don't really know if Reddit can offer me anything except comfort and justification for my rage. But maybe I'll feel better posting my troubles here. Advice welcome. My fiancé 27 and I 26 have been together for about 3 years. Early in our relationship, he asked me about my sexual history. I have had what I feel is a reasonable number of sexual partners over the years between 15 and 20. Now I didn't know this at the time, but it turned out that I was only his third sexual partner, and both previous ones had been long-term 3 years girlfriends. He had always been deliberately vague about his past, apparently so as not to scare me off. I'd always thought he was ashamed of a very high number. The low number, revealed to me much later, surprised me a lot. He's confident, handsome, smart, witty, responsible, family-oriented, and is extremely successful in his career. I have been lucky enough to have dated some great guys, but he is by far the best catch I have ever met. I was always under the impression that he had panties falling all around him. Turns out that he was a late bloomer. He was awkward in high school and shy in college. He settled for 2 unfulfilling relationships, his words, not mine, over 9 years because he didn't know he could do better. Not knowing all this history about him, I had inadvertently rubbed his face in my sexual experience. His chuckling and manner of making a joke about everything made me think he was enjoying listening to my past. I never imagined he was jealous. He didn't seem the type. We have been engaged for 6 months, and about a month ago, I started talking about setting the wedding date in passing. He has always been very clear that he wants to start a family before 30, and that was our understanding when we got engaged. That's when he breaks it to me. Apparently, the bastard is jealous of my past in a way that he can't move past. Ready to go feminist on his ass, I asked him if he thought I was a slut for having had sex with so many men. He said that wasn't a problem at all. He loved that I had so much experience, way to make a girl feel slutty. However, it seems he would never be happy together unless he had slept with a similar number of women. He thinks he missed out on his youth by being in committed relationships, and wants to live the life I lived when I was in college. His mind seems to be closed to the fact that I regret most of those encounters, and that this relationship is so much more meaningful. Over the last month, I fought with him, reasoned with him, argued with him, and did everything short of hitting him to make him see reason. But he seems set on his scheme. He is quitting his job, going to graduate school, and making a mission out of sleeping with as many women as will let him. Fuck him. The idea of an open relationship is at the back of my head, but I'm not really sure I could handle that. I guess I'm just going to have to come to terms with the fact that I wasted the last 2 years of my life being committed to a bastard. I'm keeping the fucking ring dot to melt. I hate men. What's your advice on where I go from here? Reddit. I 20 female messed up my relationship with my boyfriend 22 male of 3.5 years by lying. How do I save it? Okay, I'm going to start this long post off with a big I know I messed up. I reacted badly to a situation and made it worse. I just don't know how to fix my mistake. I've had moderately severe, whatever that means, depression since around late January of this year, and it's taken a huge toll on me. 3 weeks ago, I had to submit some paperwork a few hours from where I live, but I was very nervous to do so alone. My boyfriend was busy with work and could not make the trip with me, but 2 of my friends could. One said friend was already in the city, while the other needed a ride, so I offered to drive him. I've had some anxiety with driving as well, so it helped me in the long run to have someone with me. I am very close to this friend 19 male on driving, and have been since last October-ish. The day before this I told my BF that I was going to hang out with people after submitting the paperwork, and he immediately asked, with who? A week before, I saw online that he had signed into my Facebook account multiple times. We have had arguments in the past about him reading through my messages, and I was pissed. But he said he was just checking on me since I hadn't replied to him, which I admit I don't reply well to online messages due to my anxiety. I actually have my notifications and ringer turned off because I get rather panicky when I see I have unread messages. I've been logged onto his phone for at least 2 years, so it's easy for him to do. If he ever asked, I would let him see anything. But I absolutely hate that he can't trust me and would snoop without permission. I had seen him logging for the past 4 months or so before this, and I just manually signed myself out instead of arguing about it. But somehow he had signed back into my account and been doing it a few times since then. And I'm mad because it shows he doesn't trust me, which I've been telling him I feel like he doesn't, but he says he does, and it invades my friend's privacy. But I decided to trust him, and I'm like, if that's what you're saying, you are checking on me, that's fine, I trust you. So that was a week before he asked me with who I was going to go submit paperwork with. Well, the day before he asked me that question, I found out that he had logged onto my account again. A week after we fought about it, So I lied and said I was going with someone he didn't know, but he did because I tell him about all my friends and who I'm with usually. So the next day, I drive down, submit the paperwork, and my friend I hang out with our mutual friend until late. We had a long drive, so we ended up not getting back until around 2 a.m. We stopped at a gas station, and then I took my friend to his house. I'm just talking to my friend after dropping him off at his house, in an area where there's barely any signal and my notifications and my ringer are both, as usual, off. I look down and I've got like 3 missed calls from my boyfriend. Like I said before, I panic enough as it is at common message notifications. So I'm feeling a bit weird at this time. He also had messaged me, "Where are you?" I lied again and said I was home and going to bed, telling him goodnight. He starts calling me, and I don't notice because I put my phone down for a bit to say goodbye and leave. I look again as I'm driving away, and I have like 20 missed calls. And he sends me this is an emergency. And I start freaking out thinking someone in his family is hurt or something. I call him and he asks where I'm at, so I tell the truth. He asks why and I tell him about going with my friend and taking him home. He says that's what I thought, and immediately hangs up. I got a hold of him eventually, and he told me he had got a message from his friend about seeing me with my friend at the gas station and my BF thought I cheated on him. So I tell him he knows me. We've been dating for 3.5 years. I would never cheat on him, and I apologized to my BF for lying. Apparently one of his friends saw me with my male friend at the gas station and texted my BF. He said he saw pictures of me and my friend on Facebook and he said, "You seemed happier with him than me." I told him I was happy with my BF, not with someone who was just a friend, and that I don't want him to end our relationship over something this stupid. And then he shared a lot of stuff with me about how he's been feeling lonely and that I put other people before him, and that I don't really message him any, but that I'm always on my phone when I'm around. I play games during conversations a lot to calm down. I tried to explain I've just been really nervous and sad recently and he seemed to be understanding. But he keeps mentioning this. He doesn't seem understand all of that, plus the fact that we are an hour apart puts a strain on us. He never comes to see me. I always go see him. And it got to the point where I couldn't keep it up because I was neglecting schoolwork and friends every weekend because I knew he could be a jealous person. So I had to cut back a bit. Plus I was pretty depressed and just stopped going anywhere for about 5 months. So obviously I'm going to see my friends who live near me a bit more than him. But that doesn't mean I'm putting them over him. I'm barely able to get out of bed, yet alone drive an hour alone. And then I lied about this whole thing and he thought I was cheating. I wasn't, if that wasn't clear enough. If he lied about meeting up with a chick at night, I'd be worried too. But I think, although he hasn't mentioned it, his jealousy, which was always under the surface, but usually never outright spoken about, is stemming from our sex life. We haven't had sex in months. It's my fault. It may have been my depression and stress, but I just stopped wanting it, to be honest, about 7 or 8 months ago. So I kept telling him no, trying to be nice about it. But then he wouldn't stop trying to get me to do it. It began to happen when we were going to bed. I'd say no, and then he would wake me up doing it to me. And so for a month or 2 I just let him do it. I would just lay there until he finished and then go back to sleep. He'd apologize after sometimes. I guess he could just feel the discomfort where I wasn't participating. I started to get mad and I told him to just ask and to stop waking me up like that. But he kept doing it. He just kept groping me and I keep saying stop and he started trying to wake me up again. But even when I pushed him off he kept kinda groping me. And he literally just would say I can't help it. He stopped after around 2 months of that behavior. He had woken me up on a morning before I had work, groping me and stuff. I cried the whole way to work after I left his house. Then I texted him that night how I felt and that it was really not okay for him to do that. And I think the message got through because he hasn't done it since. And that was around 5 months ago. But he made the whole lack of sex thing a lot worse, I think because we were doing it around once a week or once every 2 weeks, but now I can barely even be kissed anymore. Now I'm afraid he's unhappy because of this and looking for an out. A few months ago, for instance, I was happy with us. And he asked me if I had been planning on breaking up with him because he said I'd been acting distant. I feel like he's just not understanding my mental state right now. Last week, he texted me asking if I thought we were becoming more of a platonic friend type relationship, rather than a dating one. I said no and actually ending up having a panic attack because it took him a while to reply and I had construed it as him preparing to break up with me. But he didn't and said he wanted to be with me forever. I feel bad because of all of this, plus I'm still pretty depressed and only just now seeing a doctor over it after letting it fester over the past 5 months. I never want to do anything even when he does. I'll come visit him and stay a few days, but I have no energy to do anything but lay in bed. Sometimes I'll wake up crying. I feel like I'm going to ruin everything with him. I feel like he deserves better and that he really isn't understanding how much my depression has really impacted me. I'm afraid he's thinking I don't want to be with him, when it's really just I don't have any motivation to do things or talk to people. He's been really sweet and helpful with me, but at the same, he keeps talking about how I put others over him and that we don't talk often, and if we do, it's not really anything substantial. To me, it feels like I'm trying really hard, but I think to him that effort isn't translating like I wish it could. I've told him all of this over and over, but every few months he comes back to me talking about these exact same issues. Also, we can't get couples counseling, FYI. I can barely afford my own counseling.